7 minutes past 7, so a school in Crosby has become the first in the UK to provide free professional standard rugby head guards to its Year 7 pupils. Merchant Taylor's Boys School has invested in the N-Pro head guards, which are currently worn by some of the top players in the game and have the backing of World Rugby, the governing body of rugby union. Well, David Wickes is the head teacher of Merchant Taylor's in Crosby, and we can talk to him now. How are you doing, David?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Well, thanks for coming on. First of all, what's made you do this?
Safety, I think, in sport is, as you said in the earlier piece, is very important, and we can see it in the news. And Merchants were committed to minimising risks where we can. And we were really interested in this head guard because obviously there's been a lot of news recently about rugby players and injuries to their heads. So we wanted to do what we can to minimise that risk, to assure both players and parents that we take it very seriously. And when we were contacted by a company called Performance Teq, who asked if we were interested in partnering with N-Pro, we looked into the N-Pro head guard and could see that it's top of the range. It's been scientifically tested in laboratories and has been proven scientifically to reduce impact on head injuries. So we were very keen to speak to them, to get involved, to partner with them so that we can provide the boys at our school with the right equipment to minimise the risk.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time since I've played rugby, since I was at school, David, and when I did, I was very bad at it. But I do remember being in the scrum and you know, that clash of heads, and, you know, it did have not half an impact, really. What difference do you think these head guards will make, and how good are they, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the data coming out of the labs is that on a head-on-head straight-on impact, it can reduce things by up to 75%, and also affect some of the rotation impacts as well by up to a third, which is, you know, a significant improvement and can lead to protection. And I think it's notable. I mean, I think you and I both were playing rugby a long, long time ago, and I think it's noticeable how much safety has changed in rugby over the years. Gum guards are absolutely of paramount importance now and compulsory. And I think the cover on the side of the pitch has changed. I'm sure you remember, the ubiquitous bucket with a sponge in it, and no matter where you got injured, whether it was your ankle, your knee, or your head, out came somebody who squirted some water on you, rubbed the sponge, and supposedly you were better. And I think rugby has moved on like we've moved on in other areas. Improving medical cover.
Yeah, it's got a little bit more scientific since then, thankfully. What age do children play sort of full-on rugby then? What age? Because obviously, I think my daughter at school at the moment is playing touch rugby. So when does it become sort of full contact rugby?
Yeah, so we begin to introduce that in Year 7, so that they're beginning to get used to contact, but of course they're getting used to contact with people of a similar size of them, and I think that's I think it's important to be clear that this head guard is not a panacea for everything. It's along with a suite of measures. One of the things that we're very keen to do is inculcate the correct technique at a young age, because if we can correct faults there, get boys and indeed girls, tackling the right way, getting their head in the right position, that's have a significant, make a significant difference as well. And similarly, working on little things like improving neck strength by very simple exercises that can be done on a daily basis, improving flexibility and strength in that area. It's all part of a suite of things which helps to minimise the risk. There's no one thing that's going to make a huge difference. It's about doing little things, lots of things together, and the whole package makes a difference.
But also, it's probably quite important from the point of view of getting people involved in and getting kids involved in rugby. They might be put off by that impact that I just talked about. If they've got a head guard, they might think, I want to carry on with this. I want to carry on and develop in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the head of games at Merchants is very keen at sport for all. So we want to get people involved, and if that's something that's an obstacle stopping them from taking part, and it's something that we can do, to give them more assurance. At the same time, we also want to ensure that boys are running around feeling they're invincible with a head guard on, and that's why it's important to marry it with correct technique as well. But if it's a barrier to entry, and wearing a head guard is going to encourage somebody to get involved, then we think that's really helpful, because we see the benefits of being involved in an active, healthy, sporty lifestyle.
And your school has a long history with sport, doesn't it? Particularly rugby, actually, and cricket as well. That must be something you're very proud of.
Yeah, enormously proud. I mean, in terms of rugby, for people of an older generation, we go back to Dick Greenwood, more recently World Cup winner Ben Kay, and indeed recent school captain James Harper made his debut for Sale Sharks. And similarly, long tradition with cricket as well. And it's really pleasing to see three recent leavers, Tom Hartley, George Lavelle and Ben Aitchison playing for county cricket at the moment.
And as a rugby man yourself, and this probably goes for a lot of other sports as well, in particular football, when we're looking at the heading of the ball, what do you make of all those conversations that are happening at the moment, with regards to concussion in particular, and obviously dementia later on in life?
Yeah, look, I think those conversations are incredibly important, and I think when you see a group of professional rugby players coming together and campaigning, one really does sit up and take note. But I think it's really interesting with that, with those players, they recognise many of the great things the game has given them, and what they're talking about is reforming the game they love, making adjustments, making changes, and we see that currently on our TV screens. In rugby at the moment, you see referees policing the tackle area much more strongly than they have done. So we're seeing a glut of yellow and red cards, which is absolutely right, because we need to protect that area, that area of the game. And as each year goes on, new laws are brought in, they're trialled with the idea of making the game, continuing its enjoyment, but also making it safer.
And I bet the lads are delighted to be back out there now, aren't they? Now that I know the schools have been back for a few weeks, but back on the field again.
It was fantastic. We had a training on Saturday morning, and the evident delight of them running around, engaged in rugby and in football was fantastic and a joy to behold.
Great stuff, David. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Lovely, thank you. Good to talk to you. Take care now. Bye-bye.
And you as well. That's David Wickes, head teacher at Merchant Taylor's Boys School in Crosby.